back, everyone, to Chatting It Up. Today we have two very lovely ladies who are really extraordinary entrepreneurs on our show today. We have Karen Riccardi and Lynn Chevry from the Riverbend Montessori School. So Karen has been a Montessori educator since '94. She graduated from Syracuse University and directed her Montessori, or got her Montessori credentials from the Center for Montessori Teacher Education in New Rochelle, New York, I should say. She worked as a kindergarten teacher in Elliott in 1997 and founded Natick Montessori in 2000. She helped merge these two schools in 2010, and she's been the head of school at Riverbend ever since. And she's originally from Princeton, New Jersey, and she enjoys spending time with her 3 sons and husband, which is always a good thing. Right? She loves skiing, boating, and watching her kids play sports. And then we have Lynn Chevry here, who began her Montessori teaching career in '95, and she graduated from UMass Dartmouth and received her Montessori credentialing from the New England Montessori Teachers Education Center in Newton. Mm-hmm. That's a mouthful. Yes. Lynn started at Elliott Montessori in '96, and she moved over to teaching at Natick Montessori in 2001 with Karen, and she's been at Riverbend since. And since the merger, she is now the Director of Early Childhood Education. Lynn is originally from Quincy, and she enjoys singing in the car, spending time with her family, especially at soccer and hockey games, and summers on the Cape. Mm-hmm. So welcome, ladies, to Chatting It Up. It's a pleasure. I'm so excited to interview you both today.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna ask you the first very tough question. Just kidding. Mm-hmm. So did you, when you were young and you were growing up, did you two see yourselves becoming Montessori teachers, starting a school, and running this program for 20 years or so, almost 20 years?
And yes.
Yeah.
You did?
Well, teaching, yes. Not running a school.
School, yeah. And Karen, what did you want to do when you were a kid?
I was always into art, design. I have a background in interior design, mm-hmm. and so I always thought I would be doing more of that. What's interesting is that Montessori has a lot to do with preparing classrooms, preparing environments, and so that has come into play a lot. But
right.
I really didn't know I was going to be interested in teaching until I started teaching Sunday school, and a lot of families would say, boy, you really seem like a Montessori teacher, and I would be, what is that? I don't understand. And then when I finally took the philosophy course, I was totally hooked. That's when I knew,
right.
I'm doing this is meant for me. Right. It's the perfect balance between bringing something that I feel like is really valuable to our society, and at the same time using talent in preparation, design. I was very project oriented always with my students, and so it was the right match for me.
Mm-hmm. So wow, so that was your deciding moment.
Yeah.
So when you took the course.
First day of the course,
right.
Yeah.
And Lynn, you always knew you wanted to be a teacher.
So that was my favorite game to play growing up. But I would play with a chalkboard. So I thought that I would be a teacher standing in front of a room and instructing. I did not know about Montessori until after finishing my undergrad, mm-hmm. and realizing, because I didn't take education as a major. I wanted to try other things. I soon realized in college I did not want to be a business major. So I found out about Montessori because my mother was working at a Montessori school, and signed up for the training, and I think my defining moment was just the first day of the training. And then throughout that summer of training, not having had any previous education experience, mm-hmm. or being an educator, it just all made sense to me. Mm-hmm. And it was really the only way to teach.
Right. So what is it about Montessori that's so cool? What makes it special and different?
I think the key to it is that the core idea behind it is that all humans can go through development either by self-discovery or by instruction. And a lot of what Montessori is how do you prepare environments, classrooms for young children moving up through adolescence in a way that allows them to be independent, to build their confidence, to take risks. And it's not as much about putting knowledge into them so that in some way that prepares them for the world. It's more about preparing them as a human being to be able to go out and do things that they want to do and feel like they can handle that and do it. So I think that's the real main drive behind the philosophy.
Mm-hmm. And so give us a few examples of what kids would do in class typically in order to actualize this philosophy, make it happen.
So the role of the teacher is to set up experiments, set up materials, whether it's in math or language or science, in a way that's age appropriate, that the child can go and select that lesson or have that lesson with the teacher, but then utilize those materials on their own until they master that lesson. And then build from there. The teacher then adds additional sequence of materials that are more complex, so that the child is evolving in knowledge and cognitive development and social development, but they are doing it at a pace that is appropriate for them, that it's the right time for them, and they're excited about learning. So we know that if you sit a group of children, 30 of them, let's say, in a circle, and you perform, a lesson, there's probably only, I think we know it's about 70% of kids will actually take in what you want them to, and the other 30 are kind of, it's not really their thing.
Daydreaming.
Yeah. So if we can maximize that they're doing a lot of, not that we don't do group activity, but a lot of individual lessons at the time that children are ready for them, they're engaged, they're excited, and they actually absorb the information very quickly.
And that sounds really quite amazing that you have a classroom of students and then the teacher sort of caters education per child. So the teacher in the classroom knows what each child is doing and at what level they are, and regardless of the differential levels within the classroom.
And I would add too, there's a lot of scaffolding, not just with the cognitive abilities, but for children to be successful, say as a 5-year-old starting to understand more mathematical concepts. Well, they've done a lot of work as a 3 and a 4-year-old to prepare them for longer work periods, increasing their concentration, having independence, figuring out order of things, so that when they go to sit down and do a longer extended academic work, they have all that already set. So the percentage of success rate is higher for them, and for them to be doing it independently lets them learn at their own pace.
Right.
And I do think that the Montessori training is so key, that the educator in the room is very aware of what children should be doing at that age, and what are the appropriate times to introduce things, and being a very keen observer to noticing when a child is bored and they need more challenge, or when a child is over-challenged, overwhelmed. How do you break it down in an easier way? And it's not necessarily noticed by the child that the teacher did that.
Right.
The next day the child may come back into the classroom and something has shifted a little bit to make it work for them. So the role of the teacher, the training of the teacher, is very key to the success of this type of environment. The other thing in Montessori is that the classrooms are multi-age, so our older students are modeling for the younger students things that are coming up for them, or things that they can be introduced to, and oftentimes we find that older students can give a lesson better than a teacher, because as a peer that child is more apt to listen or do the lesson with their friend.
Right.
So.
There's a lot of peer incentive, and you're really making that work for the program.
Yeah.
Because kids do want to do what their friends are doing rather than what their parents are doing.
Yeah.
Friends are so much more interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. It's actually based on a family style learning environment where younger siblings will see older siblings doing something and they want to try it.
Right.
So.
But in a controlled way, so it's not like Little House on the Prairie, where it's a schoolhouse and
you're allowed to run all over the prairie for fun.
No, it's not like that at all. But
excellent. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I'm sure that people who watch this show will be happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Just open the doors and let them run
We're
wild.
not back in the 1800s. But.
Right.
No, we say there's a lot of freedom, but with within a lot of structure, and that brings us back to Karen's comment about design and how important that is, and the teachers are constantly looking at what needs to change within the environment to either introduce new concepts or to review things, and to allow children to work within a harmonious classroom environment, not a chaotic one.
Right. Right. And I was gonna comment on share the address of the school for us so everyone knows where it is.
We are at 33 Elliott Street in South Natick, and we're also across the street from that at 5 Auburn Street. So.
Right. So when you drive out of Wellesley and you go down, what is it, Route 16?
Route 16,
or
yeah.
Washington Street?
Yeah.
And it's right after the Honeywell
Farm, yes.
which is a
Big red
beautiful,
barn.
beautiful location.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I want to say that the new building, you not only started a school, but you built an entire brand new building.
Yeah.
And I can see your background in design playing out in that building.
It was really exciting for me to play a role in that. We work with our architect Jim Pyatt from Pyatt Associates, and he just really understood how important the physical space is in Montessori education to the success of these attributes that we want, the independence, and the size of everything is so key for young children that they can reach and grasp and wash their hands at sinks that are low enough so that the adult isn't playing the role of, here, let me do that for you. Here, let me do that for you. It's they're not there to do that.
Or wait until I'm ready to. There's no waiting. They can have a plan and execute it.
Get up and make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yes, it
Yes.
was very exciting to be part of the design and in a space that was nothing, you know, to start from nothing. What is the perfect environment for young children? Because that building houses the toddlers through kindergarten, and so we each have outdoor classrooms that the kids can go outside and work on outdoor adventure type things, as well as large open classrooms and appropriate for the different ages as well.
Well, I have to say that street is very scenic because it has the Wellesley College President's Residence, and then it has the beautiful Honeywell barn, and you get over there and think you're done with the scenery, and then you see your brand new beautiful school building with the big brown doors and the very inviting windows and grounds.
Yeah.
So
even the window heights are low enough so that they're only 18 inches off the ground. So when children want to look out, they have a perfect view. And there's these lovely little birch shelves in each window so that they can put potted plants or little activities that the kids can do as they're looking out the window. So.
And there was a lot of effort working with the Natick Historic District to make sure that when we were planning for the building that would fit into that landscape, and so they were equally as pleased when they saw the first renderings that this is
going to work.
This is going to work. Yeah.
And how was that for you, the decision to leave your regular jobs at teaching at Elliott and go and found your own school and do something from scratch?
Well, there were a lot of circumstances. Elliott didn't have a children's house, and very traditionally in Montessori, that is where Montessori schools begin, is the early childhood. So I was on the board of directors at the time. We were looking at how to evolve Elliott to its next stage. It wasn't ready to engage in that, but there were a lot of families within Elliott Montessori that had children of the age that made sense. And so we just said, okay, well, if it's not going to work here, why don't we try something and be sort of a feeder for that. And so that's how it began with 4 families.
Four families
from Elliott.
In 2000, 4 families.
Yeah.
And how many do you guys have now?
100.
In
just the children's house.
144 families in the school and over
altogether.
200 kids in the school.
Yeah. That's growth, right?
Yeah.
I would call that growth.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell us about some of the steps that you two were involved in terms of starting a whole school and a whole curriculum and a process to get this going. What did that take?
It was great because it was a lot of learning for me how Massachusetts works in terms of opening childcare, and so had to go through that process. Of course, the board of directors of Natick Montessori was now made up of these parents and myself, so it was very collaborative. A lot of nights sitting around discussing vision and what we wanted it to be. I had done a demographic study and saw a need in this area for a good quality Montessori school, and so I was nervous, but I wasn't really worried about whether or not we could really successfully get to the size that we wanted. Originally, the size we wanted was 2 preschool classrooms and 1 toddler classroom, and we did that within, I think, the first 4 years.
Yes.
And then after that, we opened 2 more primary classrooms and an extra toddler classroom. So it rapidly, the vision worked, but the planning part was really about the board of directors. Sean Laughlin was the president of the board for the first 5 years of the school. Artemis Jakowski, who was on the board of directors at Elliott with me, he really stepped up to the plate in terms of funding and helping us get off the ground. So it was a very collaborative process and a lot of late nights, but it worked, and it was great.
I don't think you guys have ever experienced having it not work.
Yeah.
So you've always had to keep up with the demand that seems to constantly grow.
Well, I think something that helped us, especially where other schools were really struggling through the years around the economy in 2008, was our location.
Yeah.
Because being in South Natick, we draw from a lot of towns. A lot of people travel through 16 to get to work in Wellesley if they're coming from Sherborne or
Dover.
even Dover,
Natick.
Needham, Natick, Framingham. So that was very helpful. So when we were just starting a search for a permanent home, that was clear. We needed to stay in the South Natick area. And we also just were able to really hire and retain exceptional teachers.
Yes.
And I think that the families, from the very get-go, being part of the board, being part of the vision, always felt that it was a school where they could participate in any way.
And that's still true.
And that's still very, So it's more than just a place you would drop your child off and get a Montessori education. It's a place for families to be really, truly part of a community that's fun and very engaging.
And I have to say, from personal experience, that is true. You can show up and actually stay the entire day. and as an adult and as a mom,
we'll find
you have
some
fun
mop in the
doing
corner
that.
for now.
That's right. Sitting in the classroom going, oh, what, I'm supposed to leave now? Right. Awesome. So what are some of the curriculum changes that are happening recently? You've had a big merger. So now you're back with Elliott, as we mentioned. So that you started the school and now it's come back under the Elliott umbrella. So what's that like? How was the curriculum before, after? How are you adjusting to that?
I think that the most important thing once we merged was to get on the same page about standards of quality and have every bit of our curriculum feed beautifully from one level to the next. So now our kindergarten program is set up specifically to be a preparation for our lower elementary program. So we created standards of readiness for every level. So if you finish lower L, the standards should be met in order for you to go on to the upper elementary program. So we spent a lot of time figuring out what the stream would be. We added some interesting programming. We have, like our middle schoolers go and have a tennis program. They also go to New York City every year for Montessori Model UN. We have done a new D Lab, which is all about having the kids understand what STEM is, but a lot of hands-on, very much what Montessori would do if she was alive today. The working with trial and error and how do I fix this, and if I want this lighting system to light up a dress that's going with the beat of the music, how do I make that happen? And so the children are very excited about that aspect.
And that's a question that most kids have. They just don't have access to problem solving that particular one. Getting the dress to light up with the beat of the music.
Well, they figured it out, but we've seen it. But
I'm sure your students did.
This year, our middle schoolers did a version of Shark Tank. Melissa Roper is our D-Lab innovative coordinator, and they had to present in front of a panel to try to get and engage and others to like their inventions and invest in them. And it was such a great experience for them.
Did you have any parent volunteer to step up to play Mr. Wonderful?
No.
Anyone volunteer for that spot?
No, but we did have parents be
Yeah.
the panel,
Oh,
and
good.
it was
Right.
very impressive.
Yeah. And when they said, I'm going to take 75% of your company,
Yeah.
and the kids said, no, I don't think so.
No,
I can't even tell you some of the things that were there because I don't want to
Sure.
give away the patent that they
Yeah.
might want to
Oh,
be
that's
getting.
right. That's true.
But
That's
there
true.
were some very
Yeah.
amazing things
Yeah,
that came out.
I want to hear about the negotiation that
Yeah,
went on
no,
between
they
the students
played
and
that
the
out.
parents.
They did. Well, each of the panelists had a budget,
Right.
so
Oh, good.
they had to figure
Yeah.
out where they wanted to spend their
Right.
money. So.
Right. Very nice.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds very exciting.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to the school and take a look at that program. Awesome. So tell us about the changes now. I believe you're having a new head of school,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so that's going to be
Christine
a
Price,
change.
yes.
Dr. Christine Price is coming from the Weston Public School System. So she will start July 1st. So
First.
this is coming up
Coming
really
up,
quick.
yeah.
I'll be moving out of town with my family.
Right.
So we spent over a year
Right.
in the investigation of who the new head was going to be, and it was determined in December.
Right.
So it's been great because she's local, and she and I have been able to connect
Right.
and figure out ways to
Yeah.
to make this as smooth as possible.
Right.
And I'm very confident in her.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't look like the school has missed a beat or a step, and it's just continuing to grow and do more amazing things.
Yeah.
Especially with this, what I hear today about your new early childhood engineering program you've got going on there.
we actually are excited. We have wait lists in
right.
our classrooms, and
Right.
so I feel like I'm leaving on a really great note
Yeah.
that the school has grown and in fact is sort of busting at the seams right
Right.
now.
Yeah.
There is a plan to build a second phase on that side of the
So
street.
behind the existing building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually to the left.
To the
So
left.
and the town of Natick has already approved the
Great.
design, and
Yeah.
so is the historic district. So it's
Right.
just a matter of getting our development dollars together and,
Right.
and making that happen. And that would be an unbelievable, innovative
Right.
lab itself.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
the building
Yeah.
itself was
Right.
designed around that.
Pretty
so.
soon you're going to have to rename it to the Riverbend Olin Engineering
Maybe.
early childhood development
Yeah.
program.
With Montessori.
With Montessori,
yeah.
with a side of Montessori
Right.
attached to that. Right. Yeah, I can fit all that into the title.
Yeah,
Getting long.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a fun question. How are you two ladies able to work so harmoniously together for what now, like over 16 years, right? So you met before you founded the school.
Yeah,
so
we were teachers.
Teachers, right?
So Lynn actually interviewed me for my job as a kindergarten
Wow, I
teacher.
did not know that.
I was living in New York City. I was working at Westside Montessori in New York. And she called me on the phone for a phone interview, and I think we were on the phone for about 3 hours.
Yeah. It made sense right away.
Right.
The energy between us was a great match, and I remember going to the head of school at the time and saying, "You need to hire her."
Right. I had a good 3-hour conversation with
Yes, it's just it's going to work.
Right.
And it did, and ever since then. And when Karen started Natick Montessori, and I was still at Elliott Montessori, I think I called her every single day. I was hearing about things, but I wanted to somehow be more a part of it. It was so exciting to be thinking about starting, a 3 to 6 program. And that was the other thing when I started my training to be a teacher. That was the first time I really thought about, well, I wonder how it would be to have my own program someday, and to have Karen starting it so close in proximity. It was, literally stone thrown away.
Right.
But I remember calling her because my children would go off to their specials.
Right.
They'd have art, they'd have PE, I'd have planning time. I'd pick up the phone, and Karen wasn't having that. She was literally running admissions, teaching in the classroom, doing all the things a startup school would do. And she would answer the phone, and I'd say, "So, how's it going?" And she'd be like, "I gotta go."
Right.
So
Yeah,
when
that's
there was a chance to come over and work with her, I jumped. It
Yeah.
was the easiest professional decision I've ever needed to make.
But the real thing of why 3-hour conversation, why she jumped, is she and I interpret this method exactly the same way.
Right. So you have a matching vision and philosophy.
Yeah. So I 100% rely on the fact that Lynn will know exactly what teachers need, children need, what a classroom should be like. Because, Montessori never patented her method. And so you don't know what you're going to get when you walk into any Montessori school. So we align ourselves not only together, but with who we hire that have the same interpretation. It's a perfect balance of loving, nurturing environment with structure, routine that allows for children to have a place that they love to come to school every day. And so she could finish my sentence at any time and vice versa with what is important that needs to be happening in the classroom. Her observations would be the same as mine, and then we would try to figure out how to help people, fix something or adjust something, or just the whole time. It's always been like that. So.
Right, and you're also respectful of each other's boundaries.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a perfect yin and yang.
Yeah, it's
scenario.
a good marriage.
It's a great marriage.
It's good to have it's good to have a wife.
Yeah.
You know.
We've often joked about that. She's leaving me, going to Florida.
Yeah, but now
so.
we have Skype, so you know,
Exactly.
and you know you're gonna put her on a consult.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's on retainer for sure.
Right, you know. So I know. No, that's awesome. That's amazing to hear. I would like to hear some of your stories. Some of your memorable stories from your amazing students. All your students are so articulate and creative.
Many, yeah.
So give us a few ones that stick out in your head over the years.
Oh my gosh, it's hard to just pull one up to memory.
Right.
It really is.
I think the moment the car door opens and the teachers come to get those kids out, their personalities that are walking into your school.
I don't know. I think that yes, and I think that the ones where we have had a great influence on shifting something that might not have been great are really my favorite stories. So when a child comes let's say to our elementary school because they've been in a school situation where they've been scared or they haven't been self-confident, and then the next thing you know, like 1 month into school, they're up at the assembly playing piano in front of 120 people and they're smiling and they're happy. Those are my favorite stories. The ones where they weren't necessarily going in a direction that was working for them, and then they came to us and it really was the right place for them.
Right.
So those are, or they were bored out of their minds someplace, and now they're challenged, and they come home and tell their parents like they cannot wait to go back to school the next day because there's something exciting for them to do. Those are the ones where you feel the most reward. I'll never forget this boy who came very shy. It was probably in the 4th or 5th grade. Didn't talk a whole lot throughout the year, wasn't a stand-up, got up at our spring concert and blew out this rap at verbatim, no notes, nothing.
That's where all the words were going.
And just, it was so spectacular, and he got such pleasure out of doing it, so did the audience. I think his mom was
crying.
Yes. That's the type of experience where you feel like, this is so worth all the work.
There's a little coffee shop down the road from the school, and it's very interesting. There's on any given day I can pass by that coffee shop and I'll see 3 moms and they're crying.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh no, what's wrong? And they'll say, no, we're so happy.
Yeah.
And it's always these tears of joy, like their kids are happy, and so they're just so happy that their children are happy. And raising children can be a struggle, and it's such a joy to find somewhere that you can send them to where they're feeling fulfilled and they found their voice. And they're, for the first time, they've seen these children be happy. So
I love every day seeing the children just become not even, well, they're these are the young students. Yes, it's daily, and when they are leaving their egocentric world where really they've been dependent on everyone else to care for them, and they're truly in a sensitive time that they want to start to care for themselves and do things for themselves. And the whole environment is conducive to that. We add in the time that they'll need. We add, in the little benches that, make it possible for them to sit and reach, down to their shoes, to push off their shoe and put on their slipper. And you just see these moments for every child every day, where if you pause, to watch, and we get to do that, we're trained to do that, and you see them, try to get a fitted sheet over the side of their cot, and they might have 30 attempts because as they get one on, the other one might pop off.
Right.
And then they have this self-satisfaction when something like that is figured out and completed by them, that they sit and they really, pause to admire their work, and then they go on and they move on. And the teachers are there to offer the assistance when they need it, but it's done very respectfully.
Right.
Would you like some help? It's an invitation, because sometimes they just want to persevere.
Right.
And we want to allow for that and really share in their
Not rush.
success.
And sometimes you have to make 5 or 6 mistakes to make sure
Of course.
that it's actually a mistake, because otherwise how would you know?
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
A big discovery for me also is, because I taught kindergarten for so long, was to watch children realize that they were reading.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll never forget this little girl, Aden. She was presented a phonetic book after we had spent a lot of time on, different ways to learn about decoding. And she just started reading, and then as she got to like the 3rd page, there's only a couple of sentences on each page, all of a sudden she just looked up and she was like, I'm doing it. And then went back down and just kept going. And it's pretty special when you watch kids really get it on their own, and they don't feel like you made that happen.
Right.
They feel like they made that happen, and those are the miracles. Those are the really fun, great things that happen in our school. Yeah.
Yeah, that is such a nice story.
Yeah.
So share the website where we can go to find more information.
The riverbendschool.org.
riverbendschool.org.
Yeah.
So you may find that this has now built your waiting list into like several more pages. Which is always awesome, right?
Yeah. Well, we're trying. I think that the school, if it keeps busting, that
Right.
next building will
That's
get built, and then
right.
there'll be a little room
There'll
for
be
some
more
more.
room, right,
We
exactly.
are expanding our toddler program.
Yes.
So
3
we
now.
have historically only had
Right.
2 classrooms, but we've had so much interest,
Right.
and we do have the space. So we've added a 3rd toddler class for
Very
half-day
nice.
toddler.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's a lot of families
And
that's just
and you take kids quite young. What's the earliest age?
The earliest age is 15 months.
Right.
So a year and a half up to 3 years old is our toddler program.
And then you have a preschool
and
after
then
that.
the preschool, which is a primary program because it's multi-age 3 to 6 year olds, so it does include a kindergarten year.
Right.
And then we also have a in-between transition classroom called pre-LE, and that is designed for children, and this is how Karen and I started working together, for children who have not yet had Montessori as a 3 or 4 year old, but are coming into Montessori as a 5 year old.
I see.
Really preparing them for the next step, moving on to elementary the following year. And then 3 lower elementary classrooms, 1 upper elementary, and 1 middle school program now.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Wow. That seems like, that I would say that's a lot of growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like 600% growth or so. Amazing. That's just so awesome to hear. Please feel free to add anything else you'd like to put in there and discuss. I know that your children all went through the school as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not just, you're walking the walk. You put your own
Right.
kids through it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
It is interesting that I think that as a parent, what I find is when I see my son, when we're on vacation, he's poolside, can't find a towel, and he's walking up to the maitre d' on his own, and he's 9 years old, and saying, "Excuse me, where can I find the towels?" and has no qualms about being resourceful, independent, just because it's always been a part of his experience.
Right.
So those are key moments for me as a parent. But.
Because we say as Montessorians, we're really educating the whole child. So as much as math is important and those reading skills are absolutely necessary, so are their independence, their level of empathy, their concentration, their coordination, their whole physical being, their social and emotional self. So
and that seems so logical, and you would think everyone would do that,
Right, right.
But it's nice to have it explained that way, because when your child is feeling confident about doing whatever it is that they're doing, they're so much better at it and better at finding what makes them happy to do.
And if
they're
they don't
confident.
yet have the confidence, they may have the risk-taking skills to
Right.
try something new and become confident or mastery of it. And that's really what we're trying to build.
It's wonderful. Such a great program. It's been such a pleasure talking to you two celebrities. Thank you so much for
you
dropping
so
by the
much.
studio today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure. We'll have to do it again soon.
Sure.